Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. This is a brand new animated series on Disney Plus, premiered today, and they give us two issues. I'll get to that in a minute. 2 episodes, right in a row, just sort of giving us a foundation for what's to come when it comes to your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Peter Parker is very much not yet in the suit that he's known for. I thought this was going to be a prequel to the Tom Holland era of Sony movie Spider-Mans. That is not the case at all. I was completely wrong in believing that. This is fully its own new, different universe of the multiverse, corner of the multiverse, and it is not a multiverse story. It is not, there's no connection to the Miles Morales films or anything else. This is fully its own style of animation, fully its own story, fully its own new Peter Parker. I need to, again, because Peter Parker has been so much ingrained in this multiversal story thing, especially in the last Tom Holland film, that you kind of have to make it clear that this is something brand new. Each of the episodes are about 30 minutes long each, a little bit less probably when you take off the foreign credits, but it's a great mix of 3D and 2D animation. It feels like it's animated in 3D just by the way the camera moves and around the characters, but with a 2D overlay that just sort of really harkens back to some hand-drawn classic comic style art, while still remaining modern. It doesn't look dated at all. It also frames things in comic panels and frames, and there's even the corner box and everything else. You see that in the titles. There's a lot that just borrows directly from the look of the comics, but not any specific era beyond Ditko. There's just you can't get away from the Ditko feeling, especially, and I'm going to do my best not to spoil anything story-wise. I'm going to try to avoid also character-wise. I'll try to warn you if I do spoil something and you're afraid that you don't want to be spoiled. But there's I don't know where I just left off here. My brain just disconnected. That's great. When it comes to these spoilers, when it comes to story, I'm going to do my best not to mess things up. So we get to see Spider-Man. It is an origin story. There is an origin, but they kind of sort of just reference Uncle Ben, the tragedy of Uncle Ben. Peter and Aunt May, of course, live together in Queens, and they have a great relationship that's very reminiscent of the closeness we find in the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. Not that the other ones were strained or worse, but I just really like the Marissa Tomei, Tom Holland connection in those films. And I think they borrow heavily from that feeling. And of course, Aunt May in this one is also young and hot. She might be 45, 50, then you might say that's not young, but you'd be wrong. She's age appropriate for somebody like me, and she's very attractive. Voiced by Carrie Walgren, and Hudson Thames is Peter Parker. That sounds, maybe it's Hudson Thames. Ooh, maybe he's also British. He might be British. I have no idea. I'm not going to tap on his picture to find out. But wouldn't it be great if all the Spider-Man actors were English except for Tobey Maguire? It's just nuts. But there are definitely many voices you'll recognize. Well, some. There is a character played by Paul F. Tompkins. There's a character played by Coleman Domingo. If you know the Fear the Walking Dead, he is, I'm not going to tell you who he is, but he's one of the more charismatic, compelling actors working today. And also the character he played on Fear the Walking Dead was just, you didn't know what was going on with that guy at the time, but he is perfectly cast in this role. Yes, when I heard the voice before I knew who was playing it, I was like, "Oh, I think I know. I think this guy is perfect for this character." So once you will know who that character is, by the end. You should know anyway by the end of the first episode, which lands on a humongous cliffhanger. Actually, both episodes end on humongous cliffhangers relating to his character. Speaking of characters, there is so many Easter egg characters. There's so many, I think, are going to be recurring characters that are super big parts of the Marvel Comics universe that you'll recognize. If you're a comic book reader, you'll be surprised at some of the names that get dropped in here. Not just, this is so hard to navigate this because I do not want to ruin it for people who don't like to be spoiled and love the comics and know the characters so well. There are some characters that go back decades that are in this and are reimagined in a whole different way. They're younger than, there's age changes, just, like making Aunt May younger. There are race changes. There are gender changes for some of these characters. And there are, and I know some people, they're going to cry about that, but who cares? The characters the characters perform a specific function, and they're not married to a specific gender or race or age, or as long as they are the character that we know, regardless of how we get to know them in this story. In many cases, some of these characters that we're seeing in this story, in this series, are future villains. Some of them are future heroes in the comics. Whether they will be those things in the series, some villains could be heroes in this series, in this universe. Some villains could be heroes. You don't know. And there's some that I feel that are just little teases that we don't get the names of, but could be somebody super important coming down the line. Some are obvious. Some classmates, let's say, of Peter's are super important. When I saw a certain, and speaking of which, Peter's supporting cast beyond Aunt May is completely different. We don't get a Ned in, that we get like we have in the MCU. That, by the way, that Ned is completely different than the comics Ned. Betty, totally different than the Betty in the comics. So nobody cared or cried about that, did they? No. It's the ability to build up a character in a new way that isn't predictable. It still can be compelling. Because one, you got to satisfy the people who know and love the Spider-Man comics and go, that's great. That character is in this story. But also you can do new things with them. There's Peter Parker. If we learned anything from the multiverse, Peter Parker can be a multitude of different iterations, different types of Peter Parker. There can be different Spider-Men as well, obviously, as we see through Miles Morales or Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider. You can see many different spiders, but the essence of their character remains. Even if I see a character in this that, by the way, we follow home, without trying to be vague, but you'll see there's a character that seems like it's just a background character to a certain degree, a personal rival of sorts to Peter, but not in any menacing way. But we follow that character home. And those of us who know the character from the comics are like, what is going on here? Because this is not the same person we know in the future. How does he go from this to that? And it's, And people, by the way, there's a lot of people who only know Spider-Man from playing the video games, in the PlayStation. And you'll recognize this character's name. I realize that everybody has their first Spider-Man. And to be clear, this Spider-Man cartoon as it is not a kiddie cartoon. This is not made for the 5-10-year-olds. They can enjoy this, absolutely. It has more of a mature level to it than the stuff you saw in the 90s, the 94, the 97, the 2017, whatever, all the different versions that you see currently on Disney Plus and you grew up with. This leans closer to the Miles Morales Spider-Man across the universe into the Spider-Verse kind of storylines. There is the slightest level of profanity, like hell, shut the hell up, that kind of thing. It's not, it's not very little kid friendly. If you're worried about them learning lines like shut the hell up, that is something you might want to look into. But for the most part, this is an all ages thing, just with a more teenage bent. This definitely is meant to reflect current teen trends, just like the original 1962 Spider-Man with from Ditko and Lee, meant to reflect teenage aesthetics in that era. This reflects now. Their social media is involved in some aspects where some people are like looking to face off with this dumb kid in a weird costume, and they film it on their phones and hoping to get hits and views, and it plays into a little fun interaction. We get, I want to say that there is, did I say that Carrie Walken plays Aunt May? Yes. Hudson Thames plays Peter. Coleman Domingo, I'm not going to tell you who. There's Grace Song plays Peter's best friend. And it's a girl. It's not MJ. It's not Gwen. It's not even Betty. It's somebody brand new, in a sense, to the Marvel Spider-Man cartoon universe. It is a character that is known in the Marvel Comics universe, and a character that has been depicted in live action at one point, and may lead us eventually to reimagining that within the MCU eventually. This version of the character. Maybe. Don't know. It would be interesting to see her depicted in the live action, the next Tom Holland version of Spider-Man in the films. It'd be interesting. Because I really like the character and where this character comes from in the comics. It's one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite groups of characters, I should say, without saying it's a team. It's not really a team necessarily, but it's this character's really cool, really good. And I look forward to seeing more from this character and so much more from this story. This is, again, the animation is great, the acting is great, the storyline is great, and if you can live with the changes in skin color and gender, as some people can't for whatever reason, because they like to make those noises and somehow think they're valid, I say, yeah, you're gonna have a good time with this. It's funny. There's plenty of good action. The way the fights are shot, it's very much Spider-Man. It's very much got right now, everything's still new, everything's still innocent with Peter, and he's still small scale, and he's not fighting big bads, and he's not fighting big bads that are close to him. He's just gotten the local arsonist, maybe he has to fight that guy, or a person who stole from a pizza shop, or somebody who's just trying to beat up a kid in an alleyway. That's the level of fighting he's doing at this point. And he's not always spinning the web the best he can. He messes up, but it's fun to see how this rolls out, because I have a feeling by the time this series ends, hopefully it will get many, many seasons. Say it gets 5 seasons in, the Spider-Man we see here is not going to be the Spider-Man we see 5 seasons from now. It's going to be very different, but at the core, it's still going to be Peter Parker. And that is what is most important. That Peter always does the right thing, even if it is a detriment to himself. Call it what you want, but that is Peter Parker. So he will always be the hero that we need, even if it doesn't work out for him in every case. So, but the great thing is that this definitely the start off is very much it relies on us just having a good time, getting to know this Peter Parker and his world, the dynamic of his friendships and his love interests are a little bit different, some new faces, new names, and a lot of it is also relying upon us knowing that, oh, that person we know is bad news. Peter just doesn't know it yet. And because it's not a 2.5 hour film, it's not rushed through. I think hopefully Peter will discover, as we see certain things come to fruition, we will see some characters become villains. We will see some characters become heroes in just the right moments. And hopefully we'll be thrilling along the way and not have to be compacted into one big story. It can roll out over weeks, months, years, hopefully. So I highly recommend watching this. This is it's fun. It's fun. I'll put it on here. It's not like I need to put it on here. I'm going to watch this one easily. It's coming out every week now. 2 episodes already out. And I could go through a couple different names here that you might get a kick out of, but I will not. There's so many fun little Easter eggs and characters that will be realized in hopefully the years to come. Hopefully it's a season. I don't know how many episodes are in the season, but we'll hopefully get a lot of fun things in the next few weeks. So that's all I got to say about that. Tomorrow, I already picked it yesterday. I accidentally forgot that this was here. So tomorrow's episode is Doug Day's Carl's Date. Carl's going on a date. You remember the movie Up? Well, there's a Doug Day's series. This is a short that I think appeared in front of Elemental. And this got picked randomly. So Doug Day's Carl's Date is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.